Welcome to 10 Songs, where each week we dive into the connections to the music that you love, from cover versions and little-known gems to those tracks you just skipped over. We'll show you the common thread across the music you love today and help you find a new favorite with just 10 songs. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of 10 Songs. I am your host, Stephen Rose, and with me, as always, is Peter Rising. Say hi, Peter.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen? How's things with you?
I'm doing great. I've had a rough few weeks, so I am happy and excited to be doing the show again and get back into this, because for me, this is joyful stuff. I love talking about music and about bands that people don't know about. And today, I'm going to sort of lead our broadcast today because I'm very familiar with a band that you don't know much about, and we had talked that you wanted to learn more. So I thought today I would dig into Killing Joke, not to be confused with the Batman book, which there is some basis on the Killing Joke song. This came before it, but on the band Killing Joke. Jazz Coleman, Paul Ferguson, Geordie Walker, Youth on bass, and of course, Big Paul Raven. So what do you know about Killing Joke, if anything? And if you know nothing, that's fine. I am happy to educate you and walk you through why you should take some time and learn about 10 songs from Killing Joke.
Well, this is ideal for me for that exact reason, Stephen, because prior to us recording this, we were just talking that I know near enough nothing about Killing Joke, and you very kindly shared your playlist with me a bit in advance, and we had a little bit of a listen to some of the songs that we're going to be going through, and I'm already loving what I'm hearing, and I can't wait to learn more. So this will definitely be going in the car with me on school runs and things like that.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to getting
all right.
these tunes blasting out.
Well, we're gonna set the time machine back to 1979, 1980, and the group's brutal sound emerged from the UK punk and pre-industrial. This is really, and Killing Joke is considered to be the first industrial band. And what that means is they're mixing in synthesizers, kind of punk rock edgy guitars, deep thundering bass, live drums, and vocals that range from jagged and punk to beautiful and heavenly, and really bringing that together. And the sound really endeared them also to the metal community. They had this super uncompromising nature that really allowed them to stand on their own. And in 1980, they did a self-titled debut. So you have Jazz Coleman, the lead singer, who was also a classical composer. I encourage you to check out his stuff. Paul Ferguson, the drummer, who really started and took the kind of Burundi drum beats from Adam and the Ants and Annabella and Bow Wow Wow that were just starting to come in and really bring them into a kind of a new sonic space. Geordie Walker, the guitarist, who plays this gigantic Gretsch guitar that looks like something you would play rockabilly on, yet he puts together this jagged, angular, amazing sound, and he uses the guitar as a way to sort of fill in spaces rather than be a lead. The bass player, when they first started for many years, was Youth, who went on to become a well-known producer, doing bands like Art of Noise, The Cult, She Sells Sanctuary, James the Seven, PM Dawn. He did Susie and the Banshees, Kiss Them For Me, The Verge, Bittersweet Symphony, and all of that. And as we're going through this, I want you to think about bands like Nine Inch Nails. If you're a Metallica fan, you are absolutely going to be familiar with our first song, The Weight, because Metallica covered it. And it was so influential to them for the double bass tom and for the driving guitars and for a lot of stuff that you heard earlier. Other bands like Helmet, Nouveau Vague, Icehouse, Foo Fighters have done a cover of Requiem. So many bands that have been influenced by Killing Joke at some point or another, and you'll absolutely, after we kind of go through today's 10 songs, you will for sure see it in their music. So they were formed in 1979, as I said. They're sort of mixing goth rock and synth pop and electronic, and like I said, Geordie Walker's guitar and mixed with Coleman's vocals really created this really unique sound. And like I said, listen to Metallica, Soundgarden, Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, you'll absolutely hear it. So they released several singles. They did Turn to Red, War Dance, and Psyche, kind of heavy metal dance music, and released their first album in 1980. And from that, there were two tracks that were considered singles. One is Requiem, which we'll talk about later, but the first one is The Weight. And like I said, if you are a Metallica fan, you already know this song. It has this beautiful cold metal throb and these Burundi drum beats. And the album was self-produced. They did that on purpose because they only wanted an engineer who can give technical knowledge, but not to influence how the music was going to sound. So they recorded it live in the studio, super basic, no overdubs, and realized that mixing is where that difference is. Coleman wrote all the lyrics, and Geordie Ferguson joined in on some of them, but they really focused in on death and politics and hypocrisy and human nature and pollution and exile. So how does that sound to you, Peter?
It sounds amazing. And from the brief sort of preview of some of the songs that I've listened to already, I don't know how this group has passed me by. So the references that you've mentioned there are all things that I love. You mentioned Adam and the Ants. I'm a massive Adam and the Ants fan, and I'm going to be wanting to do a show about that very, very soon to share with our listeners. PM Dawn. I love PM Dawn. They were absolutely great.
Their version of Norwegian Wood is amazing. It's a great cover of that. Yeah.
Another favorite of PM Dawn of mine is A Watcher's Point of View. I love that one.
Yes.
Such a good tune. But and Foo Fighters and Metallica, you're speaking my language here. So I'm excited to hear more and learn more and get your guidance on this.
All right.
On these guys.
So from Killing Joke's debut album, for many of you, now knowing this is a Metallica, that Metallica covered this, let's listen to The Weight. All right. It's hard if you're driving not to find your foot kind of going down on that gas pedal a little bit as you listen to that, because it's just this great driving 55 miles an hour. I don't know. What is that? Like 100 kilometers an hour, 90 kilometers an hour, whatever. Just kind of sound that's just driving you. You can absolutely hear the industrial roots on that track.
Yeah. Do you do miles an hour in the States? Because that's what we
do miles an hour. We're the only one, I think, in the world that still does it.
No, we do. We do in the UK. We're miles an hour. Mainland Europe do kilometers, but
and Canada does. So I just sort of assumed that if Canada was doing kilometers, you did too. All right. Well, this is like a 55, 60, 65 mile an hour, but trying to keep it under that while playing the song is great. This opens up. This is a great song if you have one of those, I need to get in the car and just drive, and I want something that's really going to get me moving. This is a great opening track for that. All right, we now move forward to 1981. We're looking at the track Follow the Leader. This is from the album What's This For? Hugh Padgham, who did Genesis, The Police, XTC, Bowie, produced this. This is live drums and synth drums, so they really merged it even more. And I think if you're looking at three words that best describe Follow the Leader, it is energy, aggression, and drive. And you can start to hear how New Wave is starting to affect the band, because now there's a little more of that. You can hear the synth drum, but then, like I said, the big drums come over it. And there's a great minute around 4 minutes where it's just drum and bass, and they just do this with this over the top, and it just creates this great rumbling moment about 4 minutes in before they go back to it. But I remember just doing circle dances and, you know, slam dance and pogoing to this in clubs. And I remember as soon as they started playing this live, just watching everybody going around in a circle when I saw them at Cabaret Metro in 81. So let's take a listen to Follow the Leader from the 1981 Killing Joke album. All right.
1981. What a good year. I think I was 9.
Well, there you go. I was a little bit older, but not much. At that time, I was, like 14, 15 at the time? Yeah. So it was good, but I didn't get into this until later. I didn't get into Killing Joke until college. And I was lucky at that point that they were still together. I got into them around the Love Like Blood album was Nighttime was the album that I got into them at when I heard 80s, and then I became a fan, and I've been lucky enough to see them 3 or 4 times. And actually they did a track called Money Is Not Our God, and for the video it was shot at Cabaret Metro, and I was at that show, and you can actually see me briefly in the darkness for about 2 or 3 seconds because I was like 3 rows right from the stage in front of Jazz. So
wow.
All right, we're scrolling forward. We're going to jump all the way now to 2015 for our next track. And it is a track called I Am the Virus. Now, what's great is they had sort of taken a break for a while and they came back, and this is one of my favorite Killing Joke albums. They had had a lot of mediocre albums for a while. They really sort of went all over the place, and Jazz really got more into classical, and he got more into alchemy and politics, and it just didn't make the best mix for music. And not to say that there's not some good moments, but you have a lot of albums that have one or two great tracks and a lot of just mediocre tracks. But the Pylon album is brilliant. This is 2015. It is, as somebody wrote, I forget who wrote it, that this album's widescreen sound and bone-fracturing impact leave no doubt that Killing Joke are still deeply committed to what they do. This is 35 years after their debut album, and it is a brilliant album. Now, after Youth, Big Paul Raven, who has also played with a ton of great metal bands, came on and then had passed away. He died of a heart attack. So Youth came back for this album on bass and has been playing with them since then. And I think that's one of the reasons why this album is so cohesive and so great. And there are so many awesome tracks. Pylon is one of those albums that I had a hard time picking just one song, because you have Autonomous Zone, which is really interesting. As we take a look at it, we have I Am the Virus. And that album and the one that followed it, which we'll talk about in a little bit, are just brilliant back-to-back albums. So I Am the Virus, Youth on bass from the album Pylon in 2015. Let's take a listen. Okay.
Oh, so, isn't it great when you get an album like that, though, where every song is good? Because
yes,
I almost don't like doing mixtapes, showing my age there, but compilations on Spotify, because you don't get that flavor of the individual album, do you? So when you get one that is perfect, it is so good.
And not since their first album, if they had an album, Nighttime is 1 or 2 weak tracks that's pretty close, but their first album, and then what's interesting is the album that we'll talk about in a little bit, the Killing Joke album, they did a new album, also self-titled, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, is brilliant. And I think the second best album they've ever done, and that was done much later in their career in 2003. So we'll talk about that. But, you know, this great stuff in the 80s, the 90s, they meandered, and then they come back in 2003 with, I think, is their second best album, and then Pylon, that is a very close second, third in 2015. So it's great that they sort of come full circle. They learn from what's worked and what doesn't, but they're never afraid to go out and make an album that may not be popular, but it's important to what they're doing. So let's all go to the Fire Dances, 1983. This is a lighter and brighter album. Their second album, Revelations, had a few minor, had some tracks that people love, Pandies and some other ones, but it kind of stalled. And the band nearly split up. Jazz disappeared to Iceland in order to survive the apocalypse that he believed was coming based on numerology and some other areas. And by the time Coleman returned, Youth was gone and was replaced by Paul Raven, who is a great fit, as he would stay on board for many, many years. And actually, when they really hit their stride and became a popular band and actually had some charting songs. So somebody wrote the ultimate communal moment, Let's All Go to the Fire Dances, is also a key track. Geordie Walker bouncing between crunching bar chords and Dwayne Eddy on steroids riffs. I love that quote. Raven and Paul Ferguson created a throb on the bottom that really set the tone for so many of the things that were going to be coming later and that they were going to be doing it. And, Coleman's lyrics are venomous and mean and spiteful about British society. He is rounding up allies that are going to fight the system. And this is one of those songs that absolutely does it. They kind of took their primal past and added more melodies, more accessibility, but didn't reduce the thunder and power of their songs. So Let's All Go to the Fire Dances is a great album, unique cover, certainly something that I'd never seen before. And this was, I think, the third Killing Joke album that I went to and really glommed onto it. And I think as a fan of the Burundi drum beat, as a fan of Malcolm McLaren, who produced a lot of that stuff, you're really going to like this song, because it almost has Malcolm McLaren meets the Sex Pistols, meets, like I said, Dwayne Eddy, all at the same time for Let's All Go to the Fire Dances, with a slightly softer but not any less venomous Jazz Coleman. So thoughts on Let's All Go to the Fire Dances? Plus, it's just a great title for a song.
It's an awesome title for a song, isn't it? And these inspirations again that you're telling me here, you say Malcolm McLaren to me, I'm on board, because his influence on some of the artists that I love is just phenomenal. So
yeah, and of course, and Malcolm also did Buffalo Scratch, all that scratching makes me itch, which he did. But for me, and if you have not checked this out, or anybody on this podcast does not, check out Malcolm McLaren's Fans. It is one of my all-time favorite albums. He takes opera and turns it into hip-hop before anybody was doing anything like this. And the Madame Butterfly, and if you can find the 12-inch remix, which I still own, is absolutely gorgeous, where he takes Cho-Cho San's aria and he has Nena Cherry rapping the story of Cho-Cho San from Madame Butterfly. And it is... My
goodness.
Absolutely unlike anything I've ever heard, and it's gorgeous. And you almost want it to be on a loop, because it's one of those songs that could just play for hours in the background. But Fans is great.
It sounds almost like the same principle of Hamilton the musical, where they do hip-hop.
Very early Hamilton. And I've often wondered if maybe he'd have heard that album. But go listen to it. It was years before. We're talking 83,
I definitely will.
4, 5 maybe. It was like mid-80s. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. So anyways, Let's All Go to the Fire Dances. Killing Joke. Let's hit that. All right, that was number 4. We're now back to number 5. And the song that most people think of when they think of the 80s is the song by Killing Joke, 80s. It was actually a hit that did really well. A short snippet of the song is the opening theme to the 2002 sitcom The 80s Show. It was used in the party scene in the movie Weird Science. It was the theme song for Investigation Discovery, the 80s Deadliest Decade. But what's most interesting about the song is the legal drama. The song Come As You Are by Nirvana features a very, very similar riff. And Nirvana came out with that in 1992, and Killing Joke claimed the main guitar riff of Come As You Are was plagiarized from 80s. They did not file a copyright infringement lawsuit because of personal and financial issues. Nirvana biographer wrote, Come As You Are was eventually chosen as a release single because Goldberg favored the more obviously commercial song. And Killing Joke said, we were pretty pissed, but it's obvious to everybody. We had 2 separate musicologists saying it was ours. Our publisher sent a publisher letter saying that it was, and they went, boo, never heard of you. But the hysterical thing about Nirvana saying they never heard of us was they'd already sent us a Christmas card. So lots of crap from the managers. But there's a happy ending, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But this is probably their most accessible song, and probably the one that you might have heard. It's a great dance track. It absolutely is one of those songs, even though it came out in the mid-80s in 84, really represents the 80s with a great video of a clean-cut Jazz at a podium, almost Hitler-like, talking about the excesses of the 80s and how it will bring us down, and that we are now living in the middle of it at the height of the Reagan, Margaret Thatcher era. Yes.
Cold War times.
Cold War times. So let's listen to 80s. All right. From their album.
Really can't mistake that Nirvana connection, can you? It is there.
No.
For all to hear. It's obvious from the get-go.
Oh, no, absolutely. And what is great is we're not going to jump forward to, I think is, like I said, as I said earlier, their second or third best album is Killing Joke, not to be confused with the first album, Killing Joke. They decided to go back and do it, but there's a great track called Asteroid. Now, the first thing I love about this album is it was produced by Andy Gill of Gang of Four, and I'm a huge Gang of Four fan. Love Gang of Four. So what's interesting is the band, Dave Grohl became aware post-Nirvana of the legal issues that had ensued. I think it was something that happened at a management level, and Dave was not aware. And Dave is a huge fan, and Dave actually wanted to do a cover of Requiem and reached out, and the band's like, do you not know that we had a lawsuit going for a long time and all this other shit? And they had no clue. Bassist Paul Raven met Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl said, look, I'm sorry about all this crap. I didn't know, but I would love to work with you guys. So Jazz said for this album, they were going to have 3 of their favorite drummers play. Dave Grohl was going to be one. John Doleman from System of a Down was going to be the second, and Danny Carey from Tool. Dave came in, heard the songs, and said, I want to do this whole album. This is freaking awesome. And Doleman worked with the band during the early recording sessions, but the drumming on the album is completely Dave Grohl, and Dave declined to be paid for his work. He spent 5 days in 2003 drumming, said, I don't want a dime. The album is freaking awesome. It is amazing. It is a great, great, great album. And it was hard to pick the track that best represents it, but I think from a drumming standpoint, the track Asteroid is great because you get to hear Dave Grohl in full little less Burundi, but no less tribal in how he interprets how the drums should sound to this. So what's great is you get Dave playing something he would not play in the Foo Fighters, certainly not play in Nirvana. And although Dave had played with bands like the Progeny and Progeny, is that what I'm? No, it's not
Prodigy.
Progeny. Prodigy, thank you. Yes, like the Prodigy and things like that. Run with Wolves is him on drums and things like that. The drumming on this is what really makes this just top notch. And of course, Paul Raven and the rest of the band coming together for Asteroid. So any kind of thoughts on that? That's a lot to, that's a big turning point from, we're going to sue the crap out of you to like to play the full album. And
absolutely. It just goes to show, never burn your bridges, because you never know when when you're going to come around and talk to these people again. But what a story. I'm amazed at that, to be honest. But it's also quite amazing that this sort of thing doesn't happen as much as it could in music. I mean, I can think of a lot of other examples where there's been riffs that have been too close and there've been legal actions taken based on that. Because when you think about it, so much music's been produced in the world over hundreds of years, however long we've had music, thousands of years, it's amazing that people can still come up with any original content. It shows how talented musicians are, doesn't it? So
Yngwie Malmsteen has made a whole career of stealing from Bach. So you have to love that. A whole career stealing from Bach and making it metal. But it's hard to come up with new stuff. But people either love or hate Dave Grohl. I'm one of those people who loves him because he is just such a real guy. And this is one of those examples where he did the right thing, stood up and said, hey, I didn't know about all that, but now that I do, I want to make this right. I'm happy to do this and happy to promote it and be part of it. And a lot of people don't know that he did the drums unless you dig in. And that's what's great about him, was he promoted it, but it wasn't about him. It was about the band. And it's a great album. And his drumming is one of those things that takes it from being a good album to a great album on this one.
Absolutely.
All right. So, and Andy Gill. Gang of Four. We should also do a Gang of Four show. I'm a huge Gang of Four fan, as I said. And a lot of people don't know anything about. Are you familiar with Gang of Four? Do you know?
Yeah, that's another one where we'll do a show like this, where you
Hugo Burnham, the drummer who also played with Shriekback, and Andy Gill is an amazing producer and guitarist, and again one of those bands that slipped through the cracks for a lot of people, but has an amazing body of work. A lot of bands covering them over the years, but we'll get to that later. All right, let's take a listen to Asteroid. Jazz Coleman, Dave Grohl on drums, Big Paul Raven, Geordie Walker. All right, that was number 6, Asteroid from the Killing Joke album. Killing Joke, not to be confused with the first Killing Joke album, Killing Joke. All right. Going into number 7, Requiem. Now, this is a much slower song. This was the second single off the first album. And this song, as I said earlier, was not only covered by the Foo Fighters, it's been covered by bands like Godflesh and a ton of others. And not only is this just a great bass line and just this beautiful kind of slower prodding song, but it has so much energy. But the words on this are great. And the lyrics, one part of the lyrics that have always sat with me is, when the meaningful words, when they cease to function, when there's nothing to say, when will they start plotting against you? The Requiem. How time is coming, and it absolutely fits in with jazz's mentality about end of the world and politics and how things work. And it's a great track. Now, you had not heard Requiem until I played it for you a little while ago. That was the kind of slower one with that great doom, 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 doom bass sort of thing. What was your thought on it when you first heard it?
Instantly loved it. Absolutely blown away. Just what I've found with all of these tracks that you've introduced me to very, very quickly here today is I've immediately liked what I've heard, which is always a good sign when you're listening to new music, because some things you need a few plays, they need a few listens before you can get into them. But I know that I'm going to love this when I get the chance to to delve deeper into it. So I'm excited to go back and have a proper play and listen to the lyrics and listen in the car and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. And they have such a great catalog. I'll actually share with you a full best of Killing Joke that I've made that has much more songs. But this was really tough trying to pick 10 songs. And that's why we do this. And I say this to anybody is take your favorite band and get it down to 10 songs that best represent the breadth and depth of their music, that give people a really good idea what they can do. And maybe it was hard for me to remove some of my favorites from this, songs that I really love and that have been great for me at personal moments versus songs that really represent the band, and it's hard to separate that, and that's why I love doing the show. Is it really?
And if you were to do it on a different day, Stephen, as well, you would pick different ones. It's depending on your mood, isn't it?
I do this weeks in advance, and I listen to it in the car, and I go back and forth and go, yeah, maybe, or I'll move that one up, or it doesn't quite tell the story well. So yeah, there's a lot of work behind this, and I love that. So, the Requiem. So, did we just play that? We came back from the Requiem. We're about to talk about the next track. Sorry. Yes.
That's right.
Okay. Millennium, done in 1994, not at the Millennium at all. This is from the album Pandemonium. And what's great about this is it was recorded in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Wow.
It is a concept album around Arabic music, which jazz had started to really get into and was doing some things around classical. It's heavy, it's catchy, it's sort of techno metal. It was very much a return to form after sort of wandering for several albums, going from almost ambient-y metal to like punk industrial. They sort of hit the middle. And around the 1 minute 18 mark of this song, it embodies Kashmir, the Led Zeppelin track, which is one of my favorite Zeppelin tracks, and you'll absolutely hear it. But as you listen to this, think of music from Arabic, from Arab countries, that sort of Arabic music, and how that fits in and how that brings in, but yet Killing Joke giving it its own spin on Millennium.
So what's the acoustics like recording in a pyramid, I wonder?
I don't know, but it sounds great on this album. I mean, when you listen to the title track, Millennium, which is great, there's some super heavy techno tracks like Mathematics of Chaos, which is really good, and Labyrinth. There's some really, really good songs on here that do that, but it definitely gives it a unique sound. And I think, how could it not influence your music if you're trying to do something that has that sort of concept around it? Recording it there has got to add to that too. And I didn't know that you could record albums there. So who knew? I don't know if they were allowed to. I think that's kind of cool that they did. So, all right, let's listen to Millennium from the album Pandemonium, 1994, Killing Joke. All right, we're getting near the end. We have 2 more tracks, actually 3, because I threw in a bonus. Yes.
Oh, why not? You've got to have a bonus.
Gotta have a bonus. So, Euphoria from the Pylon album, which I talked about early in 2015, which I really love, and it's the 3rd studio album since the original Foursome came back, and it's great. The album opens up with Autonomous Zone, which is a really great sort of sorry state of our culture, massive sonic attack, sort of the soundtrack for the collapse of the civilization of your choice. And while Coleman's vocals pretty low, it creeps through at times and shows that he still has got his voice and these sort of bursts that make it recognizable. And I want you, if you can, go out to YouTube, watch Killing Joke play. But he has done everything from show up in a black jester's outfit to like a one-piece set of like gas station zip-up overalls or flight suit with black eye makeup, running and sort of a crazed look in his hands as he does this, and just grabs the audience with this big sort of look. And Geordie Walker was sitting in the back for a long time. He actually wore a Vickers collar on a sleeveless black t-shirt while playing this big gigantic guitar, while Paul Raven looked like he just rolled up out of bed, unshaven, hair while playing guitar, and their drummer in the background just losing his mind. And while Pylon is not the most innovative body of work, but the sound on it is amazing. And like I said, after 35 years, it's great. And I love the track Euphoria. I think it is different than most things that you might hear. It is a great representation of the band going in some other directions and bringing things together. And I just find it just to be a great song and a good song to kind of kick off moving into the end. So let's listen to Euphoria. All right, Peter, before we get to number 10, any thoughts on any of the stuff that we've played so far?
I've loved everything I've heard today, Stephen, and I will be going and listening in more depth for sure. Euphoria there, what a track. And it's funny because industrial type band we're talking about largely here, and Euphoria sounds much more like a 90s sort of dance vibe, acid house sort of title, doesn't it? So it's
I agree. And it starts out with, it just goes right into it. It starts out with just then you have this sort of lighter Jazz Coleman voice sort of going over the top, and it adds this whole other level that just sort of comes through. And then the middle of the song, there's just this great bridge with drums sort of doing this piecemeal thing and wonderful bass. And it's a really unique song, but it's one of the few Killing Joke songs that doesn't make a straight line through you. It sort of wraps around you and then tightens. And it's an interesting way to think about it, but it's so different than a lot of the other tracks, which is why I picked it. Yeah.
It's what we call a grower, maybe.
Absolutely. 1985, goth rock meets new wave, hitting number 16 in the UK, doing very well in the alternative charts in the United States, was Love Like Blood. A very thinking man's song, kind of bringing Blue Oyster Cult and Killing Joke and all these sort of things together. Lines like "We must play our lives like soldiers in the field" is one of the opening lines, like "Love's like blood." "Life is short, I'm running faster all the time. Strength and beauty destined to decay. So cut the rose in full bloom till the fearless come and the act is done. A love like blood." It's just these great ponderous image are set across this constantly depressing background, and how disappointed he is in sort of our post-industrialized society. So it's beautiful. Geordie on this song has just these great like lifting chords, and then you just have this sort of constant sort of throbbing bass line and this 4-on-the-4 dance beat. And it actually became a dance song. You have this kind of funky bass line that rolls through it. And Jazz Coleman's voice is just haunting in it. There's some ominous piano bass notes in the background. It's almost horror film-like it's stuff, but the song just sort of ticks over and over. And what's great is although it is a 7-minute long song, it's one of those songs that groove could just keep going on at 10, 15, 20, and you wouldn't notice it. It's just this beautiful little groove to it. And it's like a wave. The song is like a wave. And it's very different than what they had ever done. And considering this is the same album that has 80s on it, it really showed how mature as a band they had gotten, how they were looking at things differently, and how they were able to go from being influenced to influencers and taking the things that they had seen and mixing it up in a way that really no one else at that time was doing. And I think that's why it struck a chord with so many listeners.
And the lyrics that you read out to me there, if he'd been alive in those times, it sounds very much something like Byron might have come up with.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. Or Shelley, yeah, absolutely. It definitely has that sort of feel. And Jazz is brilliant. He's a very, very smart guy, and his lyrics are not the normal lyrics you would have for something like this. But this is a beautiful song, and you know, it fits in on almost any playlist. And it's one of those that once you hear it once, you almost want to go back through it, and you get lost in the song. It does not seem like 7 minutes in any way, shape, or form. So, and the fact that it actually hit pop charts and did well across the world and is still one of those songs that they're well known for is great. And that album has got so many great tracks. Kings and Queens is on that, and it goes back and forth across all these different areas. And it's one of the most popular albums and probably one of the most accessible albums that they've ever done. Shall we listen to it?
Let's have a listen. Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's play it.
Let's have a blissful 6 minutes and 49 seconds of Love Like Blood. All right. Love Like Blood. Now, of course, we have to have an extra. And what's exciting is last month, Killing Joke came out with their first new material in 7 years. And the first track, Lord of Chaos, came out. I've added it to the list. It's a short 4 minutes. But one of the reviews that I read was Killing Joke is an outfit that gets better with age, but also gets angrier. Lord of Chaos isn't so much the sound of an outfit that is in tune with themselves, but sound more for individuals who are constantly catching lightning in a bottle and making magic wherever they are together. Paul Ferguson's thunderous drumming locks into the uncanny sound of Geordie's guitar tones, use throbbing bass line, and of course Jazz Coleman's instantly recognizable voice. The moment they speak, you immediately get it because they're that good. And Lord of Chaos is a great track, and I'm excited to hear the rest of this album. The second song just came out. I don't like it as much, but I think it's one I have to give it a few listens.
Yeah.
But Lord of Chaos, I was like, wow, this is old form Killing Joke on so many levels. And before we play this, on this week's playlist, which is of course posted to the website, if you're listening to the podcast at 10-songs.com, I've also added 5 of my favorite Killing Joke covers, which includes Foo Fighters' The Requiem, Metallica's The Weight, Icehouse doing Love Like Blood, and there were a lot of really good versions of that, War Dance by Mad Capsule, Nouvelle Vague, one of my favorite sort of 60s, they sort of do like 60s club music, doing Psyche, and Helmet doing Primitive are also added to this playlist, but not part of the show. We're going to play Lord of Chaos, and then we're going to wrap things up. But Peter, any thoughts before we jump into our bonus track of the week?
No, only that I've absolutely loved this. And one thing that you did mention was transcending different nations is not an easy thing to do for any artist or band. And to do that, to go transatlantic or around the world and be big in Japan, shall we say,
yes,
as an example, it's not something that every band can do. So the fact that these guys have resonated across different parts of the world is testament to them for sure, isn't it? And
absolutely,
I'm just excited to hear more. I'll be talking more to you about it. I'll be feeding back proper feedback to you, and once I've had a chance to really take it in. And but what I've heard so far, I've absolutely loved.
Yeah, there are some great BBC sessions. For those in the US, some of their albums are not available because they jumped around a lot of different labels after nighttime. So some stuff is not on Spotify, some you have to buy, but there's a good amount of collection. Lots of great videos on YouTube to check out of this band. And if you can go see them live, they opened up for Tool on Tool's last tour. That's how much of a fan Tool was of Killing Joke, where they had Killing Joke open up for them. And people are like, I'm going to skip the opening band. I'm like, don't you dare. It will be like, you will regret seeing this. And if Tool is picking this band to be an opening band, that says a lot, because Tool is a extremely popular band and a very smart band. They're definitely smart people's music on many levels. So check it out and go see them live. Their live shows are something to be seen, and Jazz is not getting any younger. He still puts on a phenomenal show. It is still the original lineup of the band, which is great. It's not like 1 or 2 people. It is still the 4 of them, youth included, playing. So go check it out. So we're going to listen to Lord of Chaos. We'll come back. We'll sign off real quick, but let's take a listen to their latest track from February 2022, Lord of Chaos. All right, that's it for this episode of 10 Songs featuring the band Killing Joke, not to be confused with the Batman novel, The Killing Joke, which is also great in its own right, and certainly was a huge influencer and big change. And for those of you that have thought it might have been about Batman, hopefully you got something out of it. And for those who don't know anything about Batman, check out Batman Killing Joke. Don't watch, though, the movie. Read the graphic novel. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, good stuff. I love Batman too, and lots of different incarnations of it, but I agree completely. Graphic novels, brilliant.
Yes. Any final thoughts on Killing Joke before we sign off for this week?
Oh, really, really enjoyed my introduction to Killing Joke, Stephen. This is the whole point of 10 Songs. I've been the audience this week, really. I've learned something new. I've found some new music, a new group to get into. I've loved what I've heard so far. I'll be back to check out more, and I can't wait to hear more of your playlist that you've said you'll kindly share with me. So to our listeners as well, hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you stick with us, and we'll be back real soon with more content, won't we, Stephen? We've got lots planned.
We're chatting about a lot of different things. I know you're going to do a solo episode like this. I'm looking forward to it. I think the next one up that I know we're talking about doing Queen. We've gotten some great suggestions from Twitter. At 10 Songs 3. So if you want to send us something there for thoughts, I know you want to do an Adam Ant one, and I'm looking forward to hearing the ones that you pick for that. And I think for that episode, I think you should do your favorite Adam Ant songs, and I'm going to do my favorite Adam Ant covers.
Oh, fantastic.
I think that would be fun. Like,
yeah, let's do that.
A great version of Stand and Deliver by No Doubt is there, and there's some other really good ones. So I think that's what we should do for the Adam Ant show.
Yeah, sounds good. And I've got Adam and the Ants and Adam Ant to go from, and Adam and the original Ants as well. There's lots
Marco
pick from there. So
Marco Peroni, gotta love us some Marco. So
I love Marco Peroni. I'll be talking about him a lot on
and another guy who plays a really big Gretsch kind of guitar, very much like Geordie Walker, that big, gigantic sort of Link Ray sort of sound. So, yes, there's definitely some similarities there. All right, from myself and from Peter, stay healthy, stay happy, keep trying to find new music because both Peter and I speak from experience. Great music will help you in your darkest hours, and finding new music is one of the great joys of life. Enjoy it, find something new, and tell us what we should be listening to, what you love, as we do every week here on 10 Songs. Thanks for joining. Peter, any last words?
Oh, amen to that, my friend. I couldn't agree more. Music is good for the soul, helps you through some dark times, makes you feel happy. And as Stephen says, take care of yourselves in these strange times in the world. And we will be back with you again real soon. Thank you so much for tuning into 10 Songs. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.